Imagine the courage to be so unself-conscious that you could heal all. To be so unself-conscious that you knew the power within you to heal all. To truly spread joy, to spread peace throughout the land. And it's your land. You know, and when I said that means you could see the joy and the peace and the love and everything. To be so unself-conscious. And that's how we were made. We were made unself-conscious. Today's Father's Day. And the talk, I called today's talk, A Seed Was Planted. Because isn't that how the Father creates through a seed? Plants a seed and it is fertilized. So the father and mother work together. But this seed gets planted. Well, a divine idea is a seed. And everything is a divine idea. And we work with the law of cause and effect. Thought is cause. Everything else is effect. So the seed is the cause of the body. The seed is the cause of a divine idea, you know, and so it gets planted, and then we see how it takes root. And we've known the biblical story about good soil and rocky soil and all that. But a seed is planted, and if we nurture that seed unself-consciously, I always say we have two choices. We're either self-conscious or God-conscious in our lives. I use that analogy usually when I see someone on stage. I know whether or not they are self-conscious today or God-conscious today. I can see if it's about them or about the gift they have to offer. When they walk up into a pulpit, a Broadway stage, whatever stage, cabaret stage, whatever it is, I can tell the difference. I used to tell people, do not ever apologize for being on the stage. That is a sure sign of self-consciousness. You know, if you fall down, yeah, you might say, I'm sorry, but don't apologize for being up here. It's in our open mic night. Nobody ever has to apologize for the level they're at in their entertainment. You're here, my goodness. No matter how awful you are, you're more courageous than most. I had to learn that. I had to learn about authenticity. I had to learn about all that stuff. Now, Jesus, our friend Jesus, called God Father. Now, he could just as easily have called God Source, or Principle, or Law. He wanted a personal relationship. And he used the word Father. And, you know, so all of a sudden religious became more patriarchal. But Father didn't mean male. Didn't mean man. Nor did it mean one who made decisions. The decision was already made. We're good. You know, I and the Father are one. All works that are done through me are done by the Father. But I and the Source are one. All works that are done through me are done by the Source. And so if we begin to look at things differently than we ever have, then we can begin to live our lives unself-consciously. Plant the seed now for unself-consciousness. Come up here and plant that seed today. Myrtle Fillmore, as you know, I've been using her book, How to Let God Help You. The real book is in the bookstore, and it's much thicker. This is put together by Reverend Letty Hammock out of St. Petersburg, or out of Clearwater, and I just really like this. But for this, it's based on healing. This little paragraph I'm using today, and I love her affirmation. God's world is crammed full of health. That means crammed full of health. That must mean there's plenty of health for me to access. I don't have to walk around thinking there's an absence of health for me, or an absence of health for my brother or my sister, or my brother-in-law or my sister-in-law, or my parents or my children. I don't have to try to convince myself that there's an absence, not when the world, or God's world, is crammed full of health. Now that means spiritual health, that means mental health and physical health. For all of us, And she goes on to say, there is no such thing as an incurable disease in the body. The truth student begins at once to rejoice. Now remember, Myrtle Fillmore was diagnosed with tuberculosis and given 3 months to live. And from that diagnosis, she lived another 45 years, and we walked up a set of steps to be together today because of that. So let's be clear on that. She writes from as one having authority. The truth student begins at once to rejoice that he or she is an offspring of God. Okay, so what do you do first?
Rejoice.
Why?
Offspring of God.
Because I am an offspring of God. Ooh. Such an illumined individual declares that the life and the substance of the body are the perfect pattern of that life and body, which are the gifts of God. And then she goes on to say, I want everybody to know about this beautiful, true law and to use it. It is not a new discovery, but when you use it and get the fruits of health and harmony, it will seem new to you, and you will feel that it is your own discovery. I think that I am qualified to see that health and harmony are possible in any home where either one or both of the parents make a compact with the ever-present and eternal goodness. She finishes this with this, and God's world is crammed full of health. If it is health you want, say so. If it is health you want, say so. Now, many of us say, well, I want health. But would you be willing to think the thoughts that reveal the health? Not that bring about health. Health is already here. It's crammed full of health. So obviously, the health is not over there somewhere. Health is here. But I might have to think certain thoughts and unthink some others to reveal it. That's how I say so. I begin to transform my thinking into true thoughts. Instead, I have to plant the seeds of true thoughts so that and then water them and nurture them in order to think the true thoughts. It doesn't mean walking around with platitudes all day long. It's not about spouting incantations or affirmations to try to make something true. It's about, because remember, affirmations do not make it true. They remind us of the truth that is. They remind us, all these affirmations. In Unity, we are taught prayer is affirmations and denials. Deny what is not true, affirm what is. So you're in a difficult situation. You might get a diagnosis from a doctor. You're in a car accident, you have sniffles. It doesn't matter. It's all the same. And so, is sickness true? No. So that's what you can remind yourself of. Sickness isn't true, even though the appearance of sickness is here. Sickness isn't true, even though the appearance of it is here. Okay, now you've planted a seed. So then we've got to plant the next seed. Well, then what is truth? What is truth? What is true about this? Well, Eric Butterworth, as I've quoted him here before, said that a sneeze is a sign of getting well because it's releasing toxins and poisons from your system. So a sneeze isn't oh, I'm sick, I have a cold. A sneeze is actually the sign of it, the leaving. But I know it may seem a lot going on here. But let's review. Thought is cause. Everything else is effect. To me, a sneeze is old thoughts coming up out of the system to be released. It's old toxic thoughts. Thought is cause. That's why I need true thoughts as opposed to the false thoughts. So thought is cause. Everything else is effect. So if I want to relieve my body of the effects of the untrue thoughts, I need the untrue thoughts to come up and out. So when I heard that from Eric Butterworth, that a sneeze is a sign of, I thought, well then all appearance of illness must be old, unnecessary thoughts coming to the surface to be thrown away. To be thrown away, rather than one taking on the thought, I must be sick, one could now take on the thought, oh, I must be getting well. I must be purifying. It's all the way up here to the surface. And I meant that for cancer, for AIDS, for anything you want to diagnose, mental illness. If it's up here at the surface, it's where I can see it. Okay, time to throw it away. Time to let that go. Myrtle Fillmore, when she was diagnosed with the tuberculosis, she sought spirituality rather than medicine. I'm not going to tell you not to go to the doctor. That'd be irresponsible for me. I will tell you she stopped going to the doctor. Because the doctors weren't telling her what she wanted to hear. They were telling her she was going to die, and she didn't care for that information. So she sought spirituality, and she heard a minister say, a man named E.B. Weeks, and remember, this is 1886. She heard, I am a child of God, therefore I do not inherit sickness. So suddenly, she was no longer at the mercy of her mother and her father and her grandparents, and before that, who had the same genes. She claimed the same genes as God. And so, I'm a child of God, and she believed that God did not have sickness. In truth, there's a temporary condition for the physical. And so, I'm a child of God, therefore I do not inherit sickness. And she went home that night, and she apologized to her body for having called it sick. Because you see, there's intelligence in all the cells, all the tissues, all the fibers of our being. So she apologized, and she apologized once, to the best of my knowledge, because she didn't want to keep bringing up, making herself guilty for having called it sick. And then she began to praise her body, because all that intelligence responds to praise. It's the difference between, boy, that's a pretty shirt today, or, you feeling okay? It's a very different statement. Very different encouragement. So she didn't look in the mirror. Oh, Myrtle, you feeling okay today? No, my body is alive, alert, awake, joyous, and enthusiastic about life. My body knows it, and my body shows it. I am. She took I am statements. She began to affirm wellness. She began to deny sickness. In either order, doesn't matter. But they do say, deny soft, gently, affirm boldly. We're not trying to get rid of it. We're not trying to get rid of anything we call bad, because all that does is empower it. When we do a burning bowl, I've seen people, write down stuff you're going to let go of. I've seen people come down and hurl that paper into the burning bowl. And it's like, you didn't throw your mind into that bowl, you threw a piece of paper. You held on to the thought that was supposed to go into there. Come on, girl. And it's like, no, lovingly release it and give thanks that it's been here. It has been what has brought you to pray. When people come to me for counseling, and I always start with, we give thanks now for all conditions that have brought us to this point of prayer. Would you give thanks now for all conditions that have brought you to this service today? To this prayer service. That's what this is. It's a prayer service. Would you give thanks for every condition? Don't start coming up with exceptions. Well, yes. Oh, except my divorce. Oh, well, except my marriage. Oh, well, except my mother, my father, my children, my sister, my brother. There's no exceptions. There is no exceptions. They all helped you get here today for a seed to be planted, to be nurtured, to be grown, so that you may pass your garden along. This is like ivy. Cut off a piece and give it to somebody, and it will grow all over the place. The seed of love that you plant spreads. And that's the seed you want to spread. Trust me, there's some other seeds we planted that have spread all over the place too. And we don't need those weeds anymore, because they're cutting off, they're choking off where the love in the garden. We have to dig deeper to find the love. Forget those. Get the weed killer out. And the weed killer is love. So a seed to be planted, to be spread. Not just so I can have a great life, but so that we can all have a great life experience while we're in this body. The world is crammed full of health. What a great idea. Mental health, spiritual health, and physical health. God's world is crammed full of health. So I can look under anywhere and find it. It's not hiding from me. I can find it in the darkest recesses of my attic, and I can find it in the middle of my living room. I can find it in the middle of my relationship if I look. And I can find it within. We have so many reasons to rejoice today, to celebrate, to say, yes, I am here, and I am the beloved child of the Father, the Mother, the Source, the Principle, the Divine Law, whatever you want to call it. Plant the seed. I am the beloved child of the good that is. And so, Shawn's going to come back up here now and help us celebrate.